Eu sou o senhor do caixão. Hell yeah. Welcome, everybody. Finally, here on the Purgatory Aftershow, we're going to talk about Brazil, my country. Am I excited? What do you guys think? Do you guys think I'm excited?
Yeah, a little bit.
Just lightly. So this beautiful song you guys just heard was from this awesome old school death metal band from Natal in Brazil called Open the Coffin. And that's an old school death metal song that is sung in Portuguese. It's pretty cool. So we're going to talk about Brazil today. We have a lot of interesting bands. We try to stay away from some of the usual suspects here, which is pretty cool. Some awesome picks. And obviously I'm here with my two good friends, Derek and Wibbs. How are you guys doing?
Never better.
It's just a joy to be alive in 2026. What can I say? An amazing year. Like everything.
It's going so well.
It's going so well. Yeah.
And it's everything is great. I agree. No issues whatsoever.
Awesome.
You open up the news, you open up social media, everybody's happy and having fun. But you know who's happy and having fun? Probably fucking people in Brazil right now because it's summer over there. Meanwhile, I'm looking outside on my window and all I see is fucking snow.
I've had to clean my car off twice today. That's
Same.
where we're at.
Yeah, well, I didn't clean my car twice, but we did have two cars to clean, which is sort of a pain, yes. But yeah, so it is snowing here in PA, and I think it's going to be kind of interesting that even though we're talking about Brazil, we might have some connections to snow upcoming. So spoilers. So to kickstart, obviously, I'm from Brazil, so I grew up in Brazil, so that's when I discovered myself as a headbanger. But
I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you. I think you're mispronouncing Brazil.
Brazil.
How do you? There you go.
Thank you. So yeah, it is kind of interesting that Derek is like joking, but it's funny. Sometimes when I'm writing the name of my country, ever since I've moved here to the United States, I just say like, dude, like writing Brazil with a Z, that's wrong. Like it's kind of heresy. So
it's crept into my vernacular too. I say Brazil now.
Brazil. There
People
you go.
are like, that's not it. Like
no,
I think it is wrong. Though.
There you go. Yeah. Hell yeah. But I wanted to ask you too this question. Probably I wonder what was the first Brazilian band you ever came in contact to? Was it Sepultura or something else?
Yeah, definitely Sepultura. Like, I mean, I can't. I think I had a little bit of a tough time kind of coming into this episode because I just not really had a lot of exposure to Brazilian bands, period. So kind of like, half joking at the beginning. It's like, okay, well, Sepultura, Christian, and I had to kind of go back through my, because I'm a super nerd, I have a spreadsheet of the last, God knows how many years of stuff that I listen to, and I record the nations of the albums, and I just put a filter on it, and I was like, oh shit, there's not that many.
No, I think for me it was not Sepultura. I think it was Christian, which I remember watching. I'm trying to figure out what video it was, but it was back when Headbangers Ball had their reboot after their heyday, and Jamie Josta was the fucking host. You guys remember that? There was a brief time. There was a brief time in I think it was 2009 to 2014 where he was hosting it, and it was a Christian video. It was off of the Southern Storm album. I can't remember what song it was. Maybe Combustion Inferno, but yeah, that was my first experience with Brazilian metal. And then I heard Sepultura, and I was like, oh, okay, I like this.
You started with a very non-heavy band right there. Freaking Crisium. It's interesting because I'm gonna confess something to all of you. I did not like Sepultura when I started getting into metal. Because I started. Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. But I have this thing, all my friends know, I have this thing where for whatever reason, I don't like things that are, well, I think none of us like a lot of things that are mainstream. But I just like whenever some people like something too much, something triggers in my brain and I automatically have to say I don't like it, which is so very dumb. Something I've dealt with. I think I'm way better at that now. But back then, I remember that was around an album that was very popular when I was younger was 2 albums like Arise and Roots. They were like very, very popular. And I didn't like it that much. And it was okay. Like, it's like, cool. But I was more into like at that moment, I was starting to discover more bands from Brazil. And there's 2 bands that are very important for me in my formation as a headbanger. It's Torture Squad, which I already talked about here. And there's another one called Oligarquia, like oligarchy. It's kind of interesting. It was a band from a guy that used to sell CDs at this legendary place in São Paulo, Brazil, called the Rock Gallery, Galeria do Rock. Basically, it was the only place in the whole São Paulo city, which is fucking huge. There's 20 million people in there. It was the only place you could go to, and they have all of these tiny little CD stores, and they were all metal, like CD stores. And one of those guys in one of those stores was basically introduced me into all these like local São Paulo bands, and I like those smaller bands more than the big acts. And I started getting into the big acts later. So, it is, but it's pretty common that sometimes I've started realizing after I moved here to the United States that your experience with, I think it's not that different from most people in metal, I believe. Like they don't know anything that comes from Brazil. People just know Sepultura or Crisium. Sometimes Angra is very popular in certain circles, like Japan, some places in Europe as well. But it's that's about it, Like now Crypta, right? Nervosa, but
Sepultura and Crisium and what else? But anyway, the good thing is that like I have found some absolutely fucking ridiculously sick bands from listening to your picks. So this episode has been an enormous win. So like let's fucking roll with it. Play a pick. Like play one of
there's some great picks here. Yeah.
Picks that you guys brought, man. They're so good.
Okay, so let's start. I want to go last actually. Actually no, I want to go first. Can I go first?
I was thinking you were going to go first, so
all right.
I assumed.
So, I'm going to start with it's one of those bands that could have been, but they never were, which is kind of sad. But it's the band that's very dear to my heart, and I still listen to this album to this day. So the name of the clip that we're going to listen right now for us here is called the Mauricio Bruto clip. So let's go with that one. 3, 2, 1, go.
That drum is fucked up, dude.
All right, so Crisium, right? They started a thing in Brazil where all the bands they started becoming brutal, and they just wanted to go extremely fast in death metal. So Brazil actually has other bands that are as good as Crisium, and some of the albums are better than some of Crisium's albums, in my opinion. And that is the case with this beautiful band called Nephast. They are from the southern part of Brazil. They're from the city called Porto Alegre, and this album came out in 2004. So this little tale I was telling in the beginning of me going to this place in Brazil where all the metal shops were, and this guy showing me bands. That's how I discovered Nephast's first album called Immortal Unholy Triumph from 2001. But I actually only really started like getting super into this band when this one came out in 2004. It's interesting that there's this whole like Crisium thing. I think it started creating other bands in the southern part of Brazil that were doing this kind of sound as well. Other examples are bands like Rebellion, Mental Horror. There's Abhorrence, which is not the one from Finland,
Very
and
confusing.
others. It's very confusing, and others. But it's interesting that the one thing, I mean, this album has been with me ever since I was very young. I know a lot of the songs in this album by heart, and it's one of those where it can get kind of taxing when you're listening to it, and which is often the case with this sort of brutal death metal style from Crisium. It's mostly because of the drums. It's just like it's non-stopping, relentless double bass and blast beats non-stop throughout the whole thing. I do think the fast is not as crazy sometimes with that, especially the second album. The first album was a little bit more like standard death metal, I would say. This one is more in the vein of what Crisium and others were doing. The thing that's interesting, very interesting about this band as well, is that the drummer, which has a beautiful name, by the way. His parents were really good when they decided to give him the name Mauricio. It's really good pick. That guy Mauricio Weimar, he during the pandemic, I remember because I love watching YouTube videos on drum covers and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I see like a video of him playing on a fast song. Actually, I believe it was the first song of the album called Damn Knowledge, the first song of this album. Like he's doing like a cover. Not a cover. He's the drummer. He was just doing like a playthrough on YouTube, right? And then I was like, damn, that's so cool. And he has grew so much, like his audience in the past few years. And then there's him playing and breaking down a lot of like the classic death metal songs and like other genres and stuff like that in his YouTube channel, which is pretty cool. He's very popular on Instagram as well. So I was very surprised when I saw him, and I was like, wait a second, is this the drummer from Nephast? What the fuck?
He has like nearly 500,000 followers on Instagram.
God damn.
Yeah, he's popular, and he lives in Norway now, and he's a drum teacher and music teacher in Norway. So he actually, I think he completed the Headbanger's pilgrimage. He had to go to, but yeah, obviously
real blast bass.
Exactly. No, but he's amazing. Dude is crazy. The drums in this album, fucking amazing. But I'm really curious about what you guys thought about this one, because I don't know if you knew about this before coming to the episode. So
I never heard of this band before, but I absolutely loved this. This is exactly like my kind of death metal. I just fucking love this shit. Like this is really fast, really aggressive, just like very, very intense drum performance, which is, as we've established is my thing. I one of the funny things about this, I am an absolutely massive fan of the Turkish death metal band Diabolizer. honestly, if you'd played this to me and said this is a Diabolizer track from a way back, I think I would have believed you. The vocals sound like so similar, and just like the riffs and the drums and everything, like that, it does sound the same. The lead playing is different, but like it's just in that vein that I just really love. It's fan fucking tastic. I'm so glad that you brought this on. It was just a huge hit for me. The only thing that I would say that maybe makes this a kind of like, maybe like a 8.5 instead of a 9.5 is that the
Instrumental
instrumental
song.
kind of interlude, like
Oh yeah, what's
it
going on?
Yeah,
gives
I agree.
victory.
I don't know.
It's so unnecessary, so superfluous, so
Yeah.
like
Yes.
it just, you when I'm listening to stuff like this and it is absolutely battering me around the head, that's what I want. I don't want it to stop. I want it to like just keep fucking
Just
going and
keep
just like,
going. Just
yeah,
my
just
brain. Yeah.
relentless. Like the adjective is relentless for this style of music, and then you just put this like really kind of like plodding military kind of march in there, and it's like, why? It boggles my mind. I don't understand why they did that, but everything else on the album is fucking fire. I just loved it. It's fantastic. So great pick, Mauricio.
I hadn't thought about the diabolizer thing until you said that, but that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Yeah,
And actually,
I could definitely see that.
Diabolizer released a really good album last year,
They
2025.
sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think
that's-
the thing about that though, that, like, I mean, whether you think it sounds like Diabolizer or not, like, if this album came out in 2025, you'd be like, okay, it sounds contemporary and fresh. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like 25-year-old album. Like
No.
or what is it, 22-year-old album at
Yeah.
this point. It's really well produced. It like everything is just like punchy and fucking like dynamic. It's fucking awesome. Like
Yeah.
I know it's from a golden era of death metal, but like,
And I do think
it's
that during that time, especially like in the southern part of the country, like they really knew what they wanted out of this brutal death metal sound. So I think like kind of there's so many bands trying to go for this. They were being heavily influenced by Crisium, so they knew how to do this, and so that's why there's so many like classic Brazilian like brutal death metal albums from that era. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean with the great, Diabolizer comparison, putting that aside for a second. The other ones that stick out to me when I was listening to this was Dying Fetus. That kept striking me. I don't know why, but like kind of latter day Dying Fetus, specifically like kind of reign supreme almost. Which is my favorite Dying Fetus album, let the record show.
a good one.
And I know it's so
Masterpiece.
good. Yeah, no arguments here. As well as some Nile, just specifically in the drumming, because that drummer, as we've pointed out, just going fucking nuts the whole time.
yeah,
Just
Colias
straight
is
flat
crazy
keys.
from Nile.
Oh.
Is like
I felt
Yeah.
bad for him. I'm like, bro, my fucking wrists hurt just listening to you. Like, geez. But yeah, I mean, this is just kind of relentless, just the whole time, just blasting away. I will say that does get tiring on me specifically as a consumer.
Boo.
I know, I'm
Boo.
sorry. I'm sorry. It's
I do
still like
understand though.
it's like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 if I were gonna put it on that kind of scale. It's just it does get a little bit like, oh my god, my ears, my poor ears. Just a little bit, except for that, I would say a little bit of a reprieve, except I hated the reprieve they put in there. So a different kind of reprieve, except for that awful
Yeah.
instrumental track.
It was so pointless.
It's just maybe spread it out. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is, but yeah, I mean it rips. It's brutal. It's super fast. It's got riffs, catchy. Like I have nothing, no like complaints about it other than like I'm like you're hurting my ears a little bit blasting away like that, which as an extreme metal consumer feels a little bit like suck it up, dude. but
Yeah, I think we might have more.
I can only tell you my
blast beats in this
experience.
We might
episode.
have a few more, yeah. And it's kind of sad that they split up a little bit after this album came out.
Yeah, I did see
That's
that.
why I said the one that never was. Like, yeah, imagine, if they. I mean, it's kind of hard. Crisium is crazy because it's three brothers, and they've been together ever since their second album or something, and it's kind of hard to emulate that. So unfortunately, Nephast, they broke up after that.
And it looks like Mauricio Weimar with his like 500,000 followers has not released an album since 2015.
Damn.
And that was something by a band called Distraught.
Yeah, which is also a very like old Brazilian thrash metal band.
Huh. Yeah, that's a shame because that guy can.
It is a shame. The guy can play. He's amazing. They did try. There was another death metal band that some of the people from Nephast started called The Order, but that one never like really hit me like Nephast. So, yep.
All right. We moving on.
Moving on.
Who's up next?
It's me, isn't it? I think if we're going,
Sure.
we normally go via the alphabetical order. I think I'm gonna keep the energy up. Let's go
Oh.
Whips 3, and we'll
All right.
we'll thrash it up. All right, 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Yeah.
We love a crossover here in this podcast.
All right. Well, so that was Surra.
Suha.
Suha.
Oh,
So,
that's
no,
not
no,
us.
no, I'm not even gonna fucking try. And then,
No,
and
that
then
was
the
correct.
album-
If you read the double R as an H in English, Suha.
As
you
That's
do.
correct
Yes.
pronunciation. Yeah.
and then you call it Piah Critica.
No, that was pretty close. Fire Kritika. That was pretty close. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just means like
So,
fail-proof plan. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, sick. So they're from the great city of Sao Paulo, and this album came out in July of 2024. I fucking forgot to write down the name of that song. Sorry, guys. But so this
Actually,
this is
sorry, just one correction. I said it incorrectly. The song that we played was fail-proof. Like the name of the album was Foolproof Plan. Kinda. Actually, no. Sorry. It's like no. Sorry. It's Critical Failure. I'm so dumb. It's Critical Failure. That's the name of the song. Is Fail-proof Plan. Critical Failure. Is
I was
the album,
gonna
sorry.
correct you. I'm glad you corrected yourself.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Well, anyway, so this band they've been around for like more than 10 years, but this is only their third full length and their first in 5 years since the really fucking good Esquerendo Pelo Rajo in Ralo in 2019. Really wonderful. I like just pull out a Surha album and put it on, it's gonna fuck. It's kind of like your classic like DRI style kind of thrash punk. They call themselves thrash punk. We call it crossover, I guess here. You know, maybe a little bit of kind of maybe I think, are they the Brazilian Municipal Waste? Maybe a little bit. They kind of sound a lot
Ooh.
like them, I guess. But they're a three-piece, and you got the bassist and the guitarist doing that kind of like twin vocal approach, that kind of like almost kind of rappy kind of style of delivery that you know is pretty common in the genre, and again like you know, kind of classic tropes of the genre, or that kind of like irreverence, and you know, kind of like a little bit silliness, a little bit of kind of like sly kind of working class insolence, you know, whereas kind of like a little bit between kind of party and like fuck you, we're really pissed. You got the songs. I kind of translated some of the song titles to things like "Calm Down, Bastard" and "It's Forbidden to Be Poor," which I think is yeah, it is sadly.
It's a
Um,
highly
Yeah.
political album. Yes.
yeah, you know, like this is a, you know, it's working class music, and I've been saying this for ages. I would love to do a fucking like history of crossover podcast at some point.
Coming
It's
soon, history of
such
crossover
a
episode.
such a fun genre.
Yep.
And not too much more to say. I mean, the one thing that I would say, like, this album has like the coolest album cover, where like the three guys are standing there, like
Yes.
playing this kind of vintage arcade machine,
Yeah.
and the arcade machine is kind of all done up with like kind of Surra logos and Fire Critica shit. But what they're, if you look closely, what they're actually playing is Street Fighter 2, and you can
Yeah.
see it's the screen where Blanca, the Brazilian
Yes.
character, has just beaten up Guile, the
From
American
the United
military
States.
guy.
Yeah.
And
Hell
it's just
yeah.
like, I didn't notice that until like I was looking at it as part of this, and I just thought that fucking kicks ass. So like such a nice touch, and kind of like, you
Yes.
know, again, that kind of like, you know, cheekiness about this about crossover, while like dealing with serious political issues, but at the same time having fun with it, is one of the reasons why I really like this. And then I will shut up. But these guys can fucking play. They are tight as
Mhm.
fuck. You know, that like it's a really, really, really good crossover album. And like I said, you could just pull any of their records off of the shelf, and you're just gonna, if you like this kind of thing, fuck yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let Mauricio get the last word on this because I don't have a ton to add over what you said, Wibs. Other than, I also one of my first comments was this album cover rocks. I love that. It's so good, especially for like a crossover album. Yeah, this is great. It's honestly a crime I've never heard of these people.
What?
It's also, it doesn't seem. Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing like the cover and being like, that looks familiar. I think you like posted it in the Discord or something at some point, but. Other than that, I don't know. I didn't know him before this. Um, but as we were just talking about it, it did strike me that they sound somewhat similar to a band I kind of hate, which is Spirit World. But when Spirit World was good,
Mm.
pagan rhythms. Not when they got bad. Not when they got bad later.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Pagan Rhythms for me, the album starts out with like one of the best riffs of its time, and then goes downhill from there, and then they've never even come close to recovering that. But yeah, they kind of delve into that kind of area
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean that as a compliment because I do like pagan rhythms. I really hate everything after that. But
I know, yeah, me too. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
that's a podcast for a different time. But yeah, no, I mean this is super awesome. You know, very polished and crisp to your point, Wibbs, about it just sounding very good. You know, just like a really great recording, very tight, very, you know, they just know what they're doing. They know what they're about. Yeah, it's a great fucking album. had such a good time listening to it. I listened to it like 4 times. One time it was just like I finished it and I was like, hell yeah, let's do that again. And I just played it again. It's just a lot of fun, and it's like 20. I think it's like 24 minutes, something like that. Like it's super short.
In and out, no fucking around.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this album. Yeah,
it's great.
There's, I mean, we already said everything there has to be said about the music. I mean, Surra is like at this point, like a legendary crossover band already in Brazil. The tiny little beats that I get from the album cover that are interesting to me as well is that the logo, the logo Surra. And by the way, I'm gonna do this quite a bit in this podcast where I'm gonna start pronouncing things in Portuguese just because my brain can't keep up with both languages at the same time. This might happen.
We won't catch it.
The Surra is written down mimicking the Sega logo, the video game brand Sega. Sega was massive in Brazil back in the day, and I tell this to all my friends that like video games. We didn't have Nintendo licensed products. A lot of us grew up on Sega products. So we grew up with the Sega Genesis, which we call Mega Drive in Brazil.
Yeah,
the Master
we
System.
called it Mega Drive in the UK.
It's such a better name.
Yeah, the Master System, because there was a company, a Brazilian company called Tectoy, that they did the local releases of a lot of the official titles. So that tiny little thing is such a São Paulo thing for me, but they are from the state of São Paulo. They're from Santos, which is a coastal town. It's like an hour and a half away from São Paulo, where I'm from. And the other thing that's interesting is like if you look into the album cover, there is a little sticker in Japanese with words in Japanese.
Yeah, I was wondering about
everything. Yeah. So it's funny. The what it says in there is that that's the title of the album in Japanese. Which like it's big fader. That's the first line, and then down there it just says like Brazilian Surra Shu Bangu Surra Shu Bangu. Sometimes it's so hard, but I think it's it's like trash bang or something like that. But it's like it says 14 songs, and then what's interesting is a lot of Brazilian bands, well, Brazil in general, and especially the state of São Paulo, and if you go towards the south of Brazil, there's a huge cultural exchange between Brazil and Japan. So
we're going to talk about that a bit more in a little bit.
We will talk about that a bit more in this episode later. So I just want to call this out as well. And also the other thing is that this album came out, when Bolsonarismo was like peaking in Brazil. So, followers of Bolsonaro, that stupid fuck. Then until this band, a lot of the songs in here, a lot of the stuff are a direct attack to that motherfucker, which I fucking love. So kudos to these guys for saying what everybody wants to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, and Surra, they have done collabs with other legendary people. And them being from Santos, what thing that's interesting is that we actually have another band from that same city and coming up in this episode later. So I'll talk about that when we get there.
Fancy. I guess it's my turn. That's a tough choice. I'm gonna go with number 3 from me, which would be Grr. If you haven't downloaded the most recent one. Yes, that one.
All right.
Correct.
3, 2, 1, go. Yay.
Fucking yes.
Yeah, that was pretty good, right?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, so that was
just a little bit.
yeah, it was all right. Yeah, that was the song "Death Squads" by the band Rot off of the album Organic, which came out all the way back at this point in 2021. So yeah, these are some dudes who've been around a while. These guys, their debut album came out in 1994. Some people would pick that album for their pick if they had to pick one, as I did. But I'm not one of those people because I find "Cruel Phase of Life" to be, which is the debut, to be a little impenetrable in an impenetrable kind of genre of grindcore. I'm a man of the people. What can I say? I'm trying to appease the most, you know. But yeah, no, I mean this shit just fucking rules, man. It reminds me immediately of Napalm Death, which shouldn't be kind of surprising. I mean the guy kind of sounds like Barney. The music's aggressive and in your face like that, but still has that like, kind of melody to keep you interested. Also gets a little like almost fuzzy sometimes with the riffs, kind of like a almost like I don't want to say Conan, but like I guess Conan, kind of in that realm. Kind of I'm thinking of the song Under Black Clouds specifically. Yeah, so it gets a little like doomy at times, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean the bassist here too, as you could maybe hear there, he's all over the place. Just that's another theme continuing from 2025 with me. Love the bass. I don't know what's happening to me, but now I'm a bass guy. So the bass here, so good. Also from Sao Paulo, we love that. Since our favorite person here, Mauricio, is also from Sao Paulo.
Yes.
But yeah, this just rules. I remember when I was checking out a bunch of Brazilian bands in preparation for this episode, and I was like, oh, this is the one. When I heard that first song off this album, I was just like, yep. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think this of all of the picks, I think this is the one that like I just instantaneously fell in love with the most. Like this is a 10 for me. Like
Yeah.
it's just fucking awesome. I don't have an enormous amount to say about it. I don't have notes on this. I just listened to it and I was just like, this is the absolute fucking like kind of grindcore that I just
Mm-hmm.
just immediately gravitate towards. It's so I'm really gonna be at risk of repeating myself, but I always talk about how grindcore is like I feel like there's a huge spectrum in grindcore of like the really metallic end and the really punk end, and I'd say that Rot is basically you could argue that Rot is not a grindcore band; they're a hardcore punk band, and like I grew up as a hardcore punk kid, and that's my happy comfort area, and this just immediately slotted right in there. And I just fucking loved everything about it. It was brilliant. It's just fucking amazing. How the fuck did I never hear about this before?
I know.
I just
I know.
I'm pissed. I'm literally pissed. So
Yep.
well, not literally, but you know.
I know.
Anyway, I'm mad.
Yeah.
I love this album. And they released a split last year. With fuck, who was it? God, I've already forgotten who it was. Anyway, that rules as well. I just like I've just begun my journey. You go into Metal Archives and look at these guys. Like the list of albums goes back to 1991.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit
like
on it.
It's a lot
fucking
of stuff.
longest list I've ever seen on Metal Archives. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have some fun checking all this out. Amazing.
It is quite different though as you start going back.
I bet.
You get-
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
you're because your comment it makes total sense, Whips. I do think that this is a more digestible Rot album. Like if you go back to Cruel Face of Life, you're gonna find a very different sound. Very different sound.
It was almost like a different band. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I can
they've
hear
been
the
to, like,
riffs. Yeah.
They've been to so many different lineup changes and stuff like that over the years, which I think it contributes to the change of sound, right? New people, new ideas. I love the fact that they have two vocals. They always been this whole like double vocal kind of grind band. I have a thing for bands that have two vocalists when it comes to extreme metal. I like for example, I like what the Nile does live when there's three people singing all the songs and they just sing different verses and stuff like that. I love this kind of shit. And Rot is a little bit like that. So yeah, they're legends. S tier grindcore in my books. One of my biggest regrets, though, when it comes to Brazilian metal, is the fact that I knew of Rot, since forever, but I wasn't really that interested in grindcore when I was still living in Brazil. That's something that actually started after I moved here into the United States, and the whole thing started when I saw Terrorizer live on that same show that I was at with Wibbs, and we didn't know each other at a place in Philly. I remember watching Terrorizer live, which is a band that I grew up listening to, and that's like Terrorizer is like borderline, I would say, grindcore death metal. And then after the Terrorize thing, I was like, I wanna start getting more serious about this thing. And then over the years, I started going more and more and more and more and more, into the point where I went to festivals and then started listening to it more, yada yada. So I never got to see Rot live, which is very sad. One thing that's interesting with this album is also some of the people that are guests. So they have two other vocalists. There's three people, but there's a true female vocalist from also involved in the grind or in punk scene in Brazil. One of them opens up the album with that amazing song with Elo, and then with the other vocalists, which is pretty cool. And then there's also, there's Carini here and so, and then Gordo from Ratos de Porão, which is also one of my all-time favorite bands. He also sings in one of the songs here in this album called Corja Maldita, which is pretty cool. There's something that I do want to mention that it's kind of sad about this album, which is that one of the most memorable members of Rot, called Alex Bushu, he passed away from COVID.
Oh yeah, he was the bassist, right?
Correct. Right before
I remember
the album
that.
came out, which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
And he was with the band since forever. But to finish this on a much more positive note, the guys that created Rot, Mendigo and Marcelo, like they are involved in metal, like in the metal scene in São Paulo, like since forever. And actually, Marcelo is very important for something that's going to come later in this episode, but I just want to mention here, which is this do you guys have those, like, are they called fanzines? Fanzines, like in English as well? Fanzines?
They're not as big anymore, but yeah.
So back in 86, Marcelo started a fanzine called the United Forces, which was very important for Brazil as a whole, as a way to disseminate logic about extreme metal. And the whole thing was compiled in a huge ass book that I have in my hands right now. The listeners of the podcast, they will never be able to see it, but this came out here in the United States. You can find this in Amazon, and it's called United Forces, an archive of Brazil's raw metal attack. And this has all of the zines that came out from 86 to 91.
Yeah. That rules.
I want that.
It's very DIY. It's very DIY, where it's like
he's
the same thing as
Rot over here.
Because basically it has all these like crazy like pictures from back in the day, and it's so like DIY that they had to draw all the logos by hand from the bands and stuff. So, and you can see that they use typewriters to create the the issues and things like that. So awesome. Yeah, this is legendary for Brazilian metal, and I'm gonna mention this thing later in this episode again. But I just want to note that
Discord,
fucking love Rot.
Why are you holding out on us?
Guys are they're very important. The Rot is very important for the local scene. So fucking love them, and I'm very glad you guys liked it.
I'm gonna buy that, but not from Amazon, because fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
those guys. I agree. I'm just saying, like, you can find it online. I don't know if it's Amazon or whatever, but I think Decibel was selling this at some point.
That
Like
looks
the
like a
Decibel
Decibel
store.
book. The
Yeah.
cover, I thought it
Yeah.
was Decibel.
It is not a Decibel book though, but
I've seen it.
it's
Yeah, certainly seen it somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
all right.
Hell yeah.
Cool. So we're back with me, right?
I think we
believe
are.
so.
Indeed.
Okay, so since we just listened to a grind band, I think we should keep listening to grindcore just a little bit more. So let's go with this one called Mauricio Kinda Crazy clip.
Let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
It's this one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
No, yeah. So that's a weird one, right? Because I mean, it's weird in a lot of ways, but like that kind of like jerky intro at the beginning where it's like, wait, did my phone just cut out or my headphones like run out of batteries? And then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
no. But fuck, like I mean that is such an amazing song. I can't remember the name of it, but like that fucking
It's,
rips. But
Venom. Yep.
but I fucking oh sorry. I should let you.
No, you're
tell
excited. Go,
Mauricio's-
go,
Yeah,
go.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, tell us who it is, Mauricio. Sorry, like
Yeah, this is the band Test with the album Arabe Macabre, and this was the song called Venom. Yeah, so do you want to keep talking, Wibbs? That's fine. I can say my piece later.
I don't know why I jumped in there. You go for it, man.
I'm just excited. It's very
It's
exciting.
just cool to see you that excited, man. I'll tell you just a little tale, okay? So me in Brazil. I go to a metal show at a venue, see the band that I wanted to see, grab a few beers, have fun. Then I get out of the venue. And as soon as I got out of the venue, I look to my right, and there is a bunch of people gathered in front of like one of those like
Yeah.
Volkswagen's buses. Do you guys know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? They're very popular in Brazil. We call them combis down there. There's people gathering around this thing, and I thought it was like food or something because it's normal for food vendors to have like a little like cart or whatever sitting. And then I approached them, and there's a guy setting up a drum kit. I was like, what the fuck? We're like in the fucking sidewalk. What the hell is happening? So he's finishing setting up the drum kit, and then the guy pulls up an amp, like a generator. He sets up like the mics, and they started playing grindcore.
Yeah.
That's Test. That's the first time I saw them in my life was when they started, getting the way they actually got known in the local metal scene was by doing that. They would go to the doors of other shows with the combi, and then they would just go and set up their stuff, and they would play in the fucking street. And I sent you guys a video later. It's kind of funny that flashy bands, they do this like, live in Rock in Rio, live in like fucking Darney Park or whatever, right? And then fucking Test, they just did a live in Rua Augusta, which is a street in Brazil that's known for having a lot of strip clubs and stuff like that. They just set up the fucking comb in there, like recorded their live in Rua Augusta, which is just them playing the sidewalks. Dude, Test is fucking amazing. It's more like experimental
awesome.
grindcore. If you go through their discog, there's a lot of weird shit that happens. Like for example, they have an album where there's no song names. They're like the song names can be whatever the fuck you want. There's no order. It's
Oh.
just listen, just do whatever you want. It's your album now. Go. But yeah, so but like they've been through a lot of stuff as well over the years. They've dealt with the police, like being annoying with them, with like the neighbors and people complaining for like having a band fucking playing in front of their houses. There's even like a thing which is
I
like
would
very,
complain.
Yeah.
there's even a fucking thing that happened one which is kind of crazy, which is that there's they did the same thing in front of like a black metal show, and the like one of the true good black metal dudes, they went out and fought with them. Like they break
Oh,
their
no.
instruments and stuff like that. Yeah, there's some of that like gang vibe kind of thing that still happens in South America from time to time, which is
Sounds like
kind of
annoying
stupid.
black metal dudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And
Fuck that.
but they're huge these days. They've been all around the world. They've played like big
Mhm.
festivals. They've played Maryland Death Fest twice, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I saw that
already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is that I love João, like João Combi, which is the guy who plays the guitar and the vocals. There's no bass in this band. It's two dudes. But the drummer, Barata, it's fucking tight. He's tight. I love Barata. And seeing him play live, it's fucking amazing. Just seeing him playing the fucking sidewalk, man. So you've peaked in life in terms of concerts when you see that, in my opinion. It's really good.
Yeah, no, I was laughing when you brought that up because them performing just on the street, because that was what I kept seeing whenever I would like try to find anything on this band. It's like, yeah, they just play wherever, they just set up wherever. I saw the one video I watched I saw the one you posted in the Discord, and then I watched another one where it's like at the bus stop in Brazil. Like people get off the bus and then they're just like, all right, I guess we're playing fucking crazy thrash metal right now and grindcore. Like, yeah, no, this is awesome. I love the like kind of just we're gonna do what we want attitude, and also it's a duo. We love a duo. That's great. Yeah, duos rule. I also played this a lot just because it's so short. And again, just like the Surra, I mispronounced that. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Surra album. Like it's so short and fun. I just loved playing it over and over. So I just played it a bunch. Yeah, that's great. I love this band. Police in Brazil, please stop messing with them. They're awesome. They're just doing a great service for the community.
They
Let
are
them do
awesome,
what they're
yes.
gonna do. Also, black metal dudes, stop being so fucking annoying. Let them alone. Yeah, this rules.
Yeah, I will definitely try to stop being so annoying and jumping in on Mauricio's thing. That's how we blackmail people are. Yeah, I mean all the same stuff, and I think I was just rambling anyway. But the one thing that I would say, right, is like that track that you played, apart from that kind of like weird intro, is quite like kind of fairly conventional grindcore, and I don't think it quite gives the impression of quite how weird this fucking album is. Like and also what we didn't hear there was like this really strange, like tortured, almost a kind of like black metal vocal approach that like it starts the album, and you're like, what the fuck is this? It's weird, man. Like it sounds really, really weird. And initially I started listening to it, I was not ready for it. And then I was listening to it again this morning when I was out there shoveling snow, and I had it on the headphones and stuff, and I was like, oh wait, no, this fucks. And also having seen like kind of videos that maybe we should post some links or something to these videos and stuff on media, social media, whatever. Anyway, just like it's super fucking cool, but very odd. And I am really quite interested to go back and listen to more of this band's discography, because I think that they're on the I don't know if prog and grindcore can ever peacefully coexist, but like they certainly have some kind of like experimental leanings. Let's
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
to my earlier Conan comment, I wrote this is like if Conan played grind
Ooh.
with like the tone too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The other interesting thing to add to the whole like weirdness of this album, like the lyrics here, they are all written by other people. They're not in the band. This song in
Of course it
particular
is.
was written by a guy from another legendary grindcore band from Brazil, from Fortaleza, Ceará, which is in the northern part of the country, called Facada. Facada means like you've been stabbed or something like that. So when someone like
Oh,
stabbing you with a knife, that's the name of the song, the band Facada. So Facada. Thoroughly recommend. It's also a really good grindcore band from Brazil.
What's going on with the album cover? Because it looks like there's some kind of like Arabic like writing on there or something, or maybe
I absolutely have no idea. The name
that makes sense
the
with this
the
band.
name of the album. So the name of the album, like Arabe Macabre, just means like like sinister Arabic kind of thing, like macabre. You know, how do you say
Oh,
that
that makes
in
sense.
English?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then but if you look into the first lyric, the lyrics of the first song, which is the one that has the album title, it talks about like gods of sand, and then the rising, and like they're going on like some pyramid stuff, and then blood, and so I don't know exactly what they were going for. The only thing that I like from the cover is really that the logo of the band is actually part of like a labyrinth kind of thing at the bottom part of the album, which I think it's pretty cool. So
yeah,
I don't know
no,
exactly what they're going
I
for.
I think it's a really nice like graphic design. Honestly, I think it's kind
Yeah.
of weird and cool. Uh, yeah, no, it's a great album cover.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great art in this episode. A lot of great
Mm.
album art.
All right. Who's next? Oh, Wibs. We're
Oh, it'll be me. I'm torn. Do you know what? I'm just gonna absolutely fucking completely change the mood of everything. All right, so
Oh, good.
we're gonna go with Whips 2.
Oh, good.
All
all
right,
right.
Let's do it.
1,
3,
2,
2, 1,
3.
go.
All right.
This is the Brazil episode, by the way, just so the listener
I
knows.
was laughing because my first comment on here is the madman will find atmospheric black metal no matter what country we're talking about.
Damn straight, motherfuckers.
Yeah,
Come
you
on.
sure will.
Anyway, that song was called "Time Is a River," and that's from the 2023 release by the one-man project Autrest. The album is called "Follow the Cold Path" and it's from Rio Grande do Sul in the deep south of Brazil. So this is the debut album released independently. The dude is now on Northern Silence, who released another album, sophomore effort called Burning Embers, Forgotten Dreams last year. Yeah, it's quite hard to find a lot of information about this person. Doesn't have a lot of social media. His name is Matheus Vidor. This project was originally known as Mantle, and I'm assuming that is a rather obvious Agalok reference. He has another one-person Atma Black band called Dispar on the Italian label Flowing Downward, and yet another one on Casas Belli Musica, and that they're called Windvale. They both, but basically, he came out of just absolutely nowhere and released 2 albums in 2022 on 2 different bands, and then he released this one in 2023, and then this follow up in 2025. And he's done nothing else. But like he's got no connections with anything. I mean, I have no idea who this guy is. But he apparently he doesn't live in Brazil because he makes music that sounds like
he lives in Brazil.
Yeah.
No. I can attest. I tried. So I did it. And by the way, I had no idea like that this band exists. So like that was pretty cool that you brought this. Like I had no idea. And then looking at his Instagram and him talking with people, some people would ask him like, "Well, when are you gonna have like the vinyl for me to buy?" And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna have them here in Brazil like after it's released abroad." So I think he still lives in Brazil.
Well, I mean,
have no other information
I was
about him.
joking, but like he, I think he, in his, liminal dreaming moments, he's probably somewhere in the fjords of Norway or maybe the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah.
Because this is decidedly un-Brazilian. It's obviously it really reminds me of the band, the British band slash another one-man project, Ethereal Shroud, which is definitely a very favorable comparison because I fucking love Ethereal Shroud. There's there's these kind of like harp notes and also like the kind of synthesized string elements that he kind of layers into it like sound very, very similar. And honestly I would have said, oh, this is an Ethereal Shroud rip-off band, but this came out almost about exactly the same time as Trisagion did, and Trisagion is one of my favorite albums of the last like 10 years. I just really, if anybody has not listened to Trisagion by Ethereal Shroud, go out and listen to it. It's fucking amazing. It's like this, but just better, a lot better. But like, but
also listen to this
that's
one,
not. Also listen to this. I don't mean to disparage this. I just like the Trisagion by Ethereal Shroud is a very special record.
It is.
But it's got those kind of like really, it's like very, very heavily layered, very, very, very thick sound of like you can't like quite kind of like extrapolate anything out of it really, and the vocals are really kind of like in the background. I really, really like this approach, and the album that he released last year actually, and I think this is intentional in the sense of like trying to go from winter to autumn, I think is kind of what he's trying to do. That's going backwards, but anyway, it's much brighter, and it's much cleaner and much more kind of like poppy, and it sounds much less like Ethereal Shroud and much more like Seor, which means that I don't like it anywhere near as much, but like it's still good. But like, if you like that kind of thing, I really like this album. And I hope you do too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's a, I think I've been on record as saying the, kind of trees and shit black metal is not my usual kind of thing I go for.
Trees and shit black metal. I love
That's what it
that.
is. That's what it is.
That's what this is.
That's not what I usually like, reach for just on my day to day, but like, yeah, this is certainly different from your usual, kind of that realm of black metal. I think it's got a lot of layers and textures and different kind of things going on. Like I pick out bits of like shoegaze going on, some like ambient parts, some obviously some atmospheric parts. But also it's just kind of like got a grandiosity to it,
Yeah,
similar to a
definitely.
Trisagian, similar to I was thinking of like a Kaladin Brood almost, less like
Yeah.
tribal, less summoning, but like similar in how they're approaching black metal in the sense of like it's got to be huge, very very large sounding. But yeah, I mean it's great. I have no real qualms about this one. I think it's awesome. I think if you like black metal, I can't understand why you wouldn't like this. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of yeah, just everything you like in this style of black metal. This very
It's
atmospheric, very
definitely not a, you know, down the shore in August record. I think
no.
it kind of works for our current, you know,
I will tell you this: it's
snowstorm.
great to shovel your car out in from the snow. It's a great soundtrack to that. As I was doing earlier today, I was like, man, this hits.
So yeah, you were doing atmospheric black metal and I was doing grindcore. We'll just
Well,
deep snow.
to build on that joke, the note that I had in here said that Whips had to go to Brazil of all places and find the one good atmospheric
Yep.
black metal that talks about the cold in December. Right now, I was just talking with my dad. It's fucking 95 Fahrenheit down there, like
Oh God.
35 Celsius every day. Um, but I would say there are certain albums, I do like threes and shit black metal. So but there are certain albums that I feel they have a certain aesthetic and the music matches the aesthetic of the album, which is what I think that Mateus was able to accomplish here. And it really transports me into like, the mountains in the winter, like fucking like, kind of dread. I don't know, the loneliness feeling that I get from the sound. I had no idea this thing exists. And it was interesting you mentioning the Seor reference because I did try to find more information about Mateus. And what I got was like an interview where he was mentioning like Seor and like Calendar Brood as some of his influences.
Nice.
So you're on point there, Wibs. Really good pick. We'll definitely follow this band moving forward. I didn't even know they released an album last year. I got kind of sad when I saw it. I was like, dude, I tried following the Brazilian scene, but I think atmospheric black metal is not really something that's popular, not even in the underground in Brazil. So it's underground. So I have some work to do.
Yeah, check it out. I mean, I think that sound kind of hits with it doesn't quite work for me, that kind of Seor sound, but like
Mm.
it's very popular and I think the people that do like that, kind of like, I mean, it's always ridiculous to have like kind of like Celtic Brazilian like atmospheric black metal, but that's where he kind of goes on the next record. I like this one much more, but the next one is, I mean, it's super well done. It's just not quite as much for me, but definitely, I think this guy's amazingly talented and should be somebody to follow.
Yeah,
Oh.
definitely agree.
Yeah.
All right, we're back to Derek.
We're gonna go with okay, we're gonna go with Derek 2, otherwise known as Damn. This shit kind of pretty though.
Woo!
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that was I'm gonna mispronounce this, but we're gonna do it anyway. Piah Mater. You say it,
I
Mauricio.
think
You
it's
know it better.
Piah Mater. This is not Portuguese though.
Okay. You do it better anyway. Don't worry. That was the song "Fallow Garden" off the album "Under the Shadow of a Foreign Sun" from 2024, from the label Code 666 Records. So these guys get compared. I don't know if it's super clear from that clip. They get compared to Opeth a lot, like a lot, like, and I do get it. To the last album, the album before this one, I remember putting on that album, and I remember thinking the first song sounded like a B-side off of Deliverance. So like I get it. Like I get it. This album, I will die on this hill a little bit. Sounds very different. I will say it sounds way more gothy. I will say it also sounds way more melodic death metal-ish than Opeth ever has gone. And I will say the cleans, although I do like Michael's cleans and he is the best and I love him very much. I will say this guy's cleans are a little more expansive, little higher register maybe, than Michael gets. Yeah, no, I think it's a great album. I think it's got a lot going on. I did look on Metallum and was kind of stunned to see how many instruments are used here. There's like saxophone. There's that later in that song we heard, Fallow Garden. There's like a really awesome saxophone outro. But they've also got flute and violin and cello on this album in various parts on the album, various songs. And yeah, I think it's a great, really varied album. I will say the Opeth influence is hard to shake once you know about it. Like once you hear it, you're like you just kind of keep hearing it. I think that's something it sounds like they're starting to shake. So I'd be interested to see what the next album's gonna sound like. Because this one feels like they're starting to figure it out a little bit, where their thing is in the context of like, yeah, we've heard some Opeth albums and really like Opeth and can play some cool Opeth riffs, but we don't want to just be that. So yeah, what you guys think?
So it's interesting. Yeah, I agree with the. It's inevitable, I think, to do the Opeth comparison if you really like Opeth, because I know of them since The Wandering Daughter as well. Like I didn't know about their first, which is like when The Wandering Daughter came out. think I saw some reviews and it popping up everywhere. And then I agree. I listened to that. I say, yeah, it sounds like a Opeth. And then I agree with you. Like this other album, this latest album is a little bit different, and I like this more.
Yeah.
And also, I did find some. I did find some interviews where they were saying that they didn't never shoot to be like a Opeth like copycat or anything like that. It is just something that kind of happened naturally for them. They were saying, I think it was like Luis, which is one of the two guys, saying that his mentor is actually his son from so he really likes that kind of stuff. He can, even though he doesn't know the guy, he considers him his mentor. If you know, like Isan's like solo work, like it's not exactly the same, obviously, but like you can kind of see like why I would
see
imagine.
that. Yeah, especially the trilogy with Isan. But anyway,
and I think they actually explicitly mentioned this thing about being a little bit more conscious about distancing themselves from Opeth a little bit, because I think that I would get very annoyed if I did a project and it didn't shoot to be like a copy and then everybody's comparing. But at the same time, it's like when you're creating music, like I'm what the fuck can I say? Like I never released anything, but I would imagine that you draw from your influences, from your subconscious. Sometimes it's just kind of hard for you to avoid this kind of stuff. The one thing I want to just shout out in this album is that last song. It's called Canicola. It's just such a beautiful song. And it just starts with this other Brazilian singer called Isadora, and it's just like it's just so fucking beautiful. And even the way that exactly at the half of that particular sound, they mix her vocals with his vocals, and it's just so fucking beautiful. So really, really loved that song, and that prompted me to find Isadora's solo work, which is also equally very cool. She's an amazing vocalist. So I agree with what you said, Derek. I don't think this one is. I think they are succeeding, I would say, in distancing themselves a little bit more from Opeth, though it's really hard to not hear it once because like now, like for me, since I know them since the previous album, I just already go in like kind of thinking, oh, it's Piah Mater. It's kind of sad, but it's sort of how I approach the band. And they're from Rio. Yeah, they're from Rio. So this sound does not matches like Rio de Janeiro at all. So, whoops.
Well, I'll go backwards, because I really agree with you. In that track 6, I can't remember the name you stated it, but the singing is in Portuguese instead of English.
Yes,
and I liked it. I liked those cleans so much more than the cleans elsewhere in the record, and I'll probably kind of return to that theme in a moment. But then going back to the beginning, like I feel like at the beginning of the first track, it does sound like Still Life, Opeth. It sounds like there's a couple of riffs in there that are kind of like just kind of Serenity, Painted Death, and you just think, yeah, okay, right, Opeth clone. But that's not what you get throughout the album. It's actually bouncing around, like the track Terra Dois.
Dois. I'd like to
Terra
or two.
Dois.
Like Terra Dois.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a Melodeath track. That's just straight up Melodeath, and it's really fucking good Melodeath. That's like it's and I don't like Melodeath. But I like that. Like it's kind of it's difficult for me personally, but like anyway, I really like the clip you played from Fallow Garden. Derek, was a fucking excellent clip. But then at the end, like, you say, oh, okay, yeah, there's this saxophone solo. Personally, at this point, I'm done with sax solos in metal, and unless you're White Ward, because then you're allowed. But like, I
was about to ask, by the way. I was like, low-key, I was like, what about White Ward, dude?
Yeah, well, White Ward is different, but like, I don't know. It just kind of like it's becoming almost a trope at this point. It's just
it
kind
is.
of like,
I agree with you.
it's kind of beginning to irritate me a little bit. Like when like I know they weren't the first to do it, but when Rivers of Nile, like on Where Owls Know My Name, like they went like that first sax solo kicked in and I forget whatever track it was, but like it just it just seemed like such a breath of fresh air. And again, like I think White Ward similar kind of time, but like oh god, I've just had enough of saxophones and metal at this point. Get rid of them. But the one thing about it, like I want to emphasize, there's so much about this record that I really like. There's so many great riffs. Like there's so many fucking like excellent like examples of what I've like, whether it's progressive metal or even really beautiful kind of like acousticy passages and all that kind of stuff. When they do what they do, and I like it, I love it, but I fucking hate the cleans. I'm sorry, I just
Oh,
just
that's
hate
fair.
them. They're like they're too far into the kind of prog power realm for me,
hmm
and
Mhm.
I'm like, eh. And the only exception actually is that bit at the end with when he starts singing in Portuguese. And then I'm like, oh, why weren't you
Yeah.
doing this the whole time? Because I'm like, I like that, but when he for some reason when he's singing in English, there's a little bit it's just too earnest, too like it's a little bit too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have something to say about that. A lot of times when I'm listening to metal from Brazil, I can't help but think that I would like bands to just use Portuguese more. We
Yeah,
opened up this podcast with that song from my friend, and it's also in Portuguese, but the rest of his album is also in English. Open the Coffin, the band that opens the episode is from a friend of mine, and I just love whenever I think that the Portuguese language has so much to offer, and it's kind of sad to me that it's not used more in metal. So we love Valdovan here, right? And Taira, which is the other, and almost everything that they do is in Portuguese, and it's fucking amazing. Whether it's
hmm
growls, whether it's cleans, like it just works super well. Um, and I don't know why. I kind of know like, there's a part of like acceptance from like the foreign market and stuff like that. Sometimes when you don't use English and it's the truth, some people would just not even pay attention. But I don't know. I think that has been changing in the past few years. I think that was more of something that happened like in the 80s and the 90s and maybe the early 2000s. I think this kind of has been changed. So I also wish that there was more Portuguese in this album, Whips. I thoroughly agree with you. Yeah.
yeah, that would
Yeah.
be my ask. But I think that's just probably in general. Like I'm a little bit more comfortable with music where I can't understand what they're saying, because so much of the time when they can understand, it's like oh god or whatever. Like you kind of it's like well, it sounds cool, so maybe what they're saying is cool. You don't like know that you don't have to kind of like listen to
Mhm.
somebody's poetry.
It is an interesting thing to think about too, because I think of the Opeth album In Cauda Venenum, continuing with the Opeth theme. And that album, I would assert, and I think you would agree with me, Wibbs, and maybe you, Mauricio, but I know for sure Wibbs, the Swedish version of that album, which they recorded in addition to the English version, is significantly better than like the Swedish singing for some reason just works much better. I don't know why. It could be because it's the native
I
language, native tongue.
Exactly.
I don't
I
know.
think it brings a certain authenticity. It's hard to explain, but
hmm
I think that they will feel much more comfortable singing in their native language, right? Their mother
Yeah.
language than
Well, I
just
wonder if
singing.
like too, if you like if when you're writing the riffs, if you're I don't know if you're like talking in your native language, like to yourself. Like I don't know another language, so I can't speak to that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how you talk to yourself because I can only talk to myself in English and that not great English, you know. Um, but if you're talking to yourself in your head in like Portuguese, I would imagine that if you're singing in Portuguese, that might make more sense. I don't know if I'm making sense with all of this, but
the part that's interesting is that most of the metal that we consume is in English. So it might feel odd, even though you don't speak the language, it might feel odd to sing not in English because the vast majority of metal that you consume, the music is in English.
Yeah, but
So-
how much of the metal that we listen to is actually intelligible? Like, because like
Yeah.
No,
I actually
understand.
get bothered by death metal vocals where I can understand what they're saying. I'm like, this sucks. Like,
No, I understand. I get it. But like, I get all of that. But like, I also understand the other side, which is like, it's kind of even hard to create the same. Imagine this, like, it's something that I only realized after I moved into the United States, right? In the same vein of what you're saying, it's one thing for me to be walking around in Brazil with a Cannibal Corpse T-shirt that says "Butchered at Birth" than it is for me to wear that same T-shirt here and just walking around in fucking Exton, PA. Because people can read what's fucking written in there and understand. So there's a certain it's almost as if like you are also, it sounds a little bit more cheesy sometimes when we're using Portuguese for some of the themes in metal if you're not used to it. So that's why these days I feel so many bands have broke through and done things in Portuguese, even to talk about like brains rotting and zombies and stuff like that. There's bands singing in Portuguese about all that stuff as well. So now it doesn't feel as cheesy. So I don't know for genres like this from Piah out there. Like I don't know like of any other bands that do this kind of sound and sing in Portuguese. So sometimes even for the creator of the music, it sounds weird to not use English. That's at least what I feel when I've heard some friends saying this that actually are into like songwriting and stuff.
all right. Well, I kind of always assumed that like choosing to do it in English is purely commercial.
that's been
yeah.
my thought too. Yeah.
I think it definitely started like that, but I do think that there is another element, which is it's just like it's kind of weird to not use English. It just doesn't sound kind of right. I've heard this before.
It sounds better when you
I
do
agree.
it in your
I agree.
your own language.
Yeah. For
Whatever
the record, I'm
the
not
fucking
agreeing with any
language
of
is.
that. Yeah. For the record, I don't agree with any of that. I'm just saying that that's the reasoning that I've heard before.
Yeah.
I also
get you.
prefer Portuguese. Dude, I love when there's fucking Portuguese in my metal. Just please sing in Portuguese. I can sing.
Hell
I
yeah.
can sing along.
All
Anyway.
right. Well, that was actually quite an interesting conversation. So, like,
Yeah.
should we move on?
Who's up next? Is it
I think it's
Me?
Whips.
No, that was
No, I think
Terry's
it's back to
pick,
me.
So it's you. It's
Oh, it's back to you. Yeah.
It's back to me. Okay, so now, yeah. So I have a clip here. It's Mauricio Speed. So that's the one we're doing. All right. So 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so this fun. This was the almighty Attomica from São José dos Campos, which is a city in the countryside of São Paulo, the state of São Paulo. This album is called Disturbing the Noise, was released in 91, and this was the beautiful song called The Chainsaw. So Atomica is a very interesting one. I picked this one for a reason. I think it's a somewhat obscure band, but do you guys remember I was talking about Nephast and then all that happened with the influences from Crisium and all that? And this record came out in 91. Is this the same one when Sepultura Rise came out? This is the same year. And it was like completely, this album was completely obfuscated by Sepultura Rise, and that happened to a lot of other thrash stuff that was going on in Brazil back in the day. So I think it's interesting that when this album came out in 91, actually it didn't get a lot of traction, and the band actually stopped. They kind of went silent for a few years because of the lack of reception that they got when this came out. It's definitely not a perfect album. You can hear the imperfections if you crank it up the volume and you listen to the whole album. You can kind of hear the imperfections, across the board. And it also loses a little bit of steam on side B. I do think side A is just relentless speed, and then side B kind of slows down a little bit. And I wish they had doubled down on the speed from side A on side B. What's interesting is that there is a certain, we were talking about authenticity. There is a certain authenticity that is conveyed through these imperfections for me, because I can in my head, and we're gonna talk about this with another album, and this is still in this episode, but in my head, I can imagine some of the hurdles that some of these guys they go through to record albums like this back in the day. Like, you have to think there was no fucking internet. You're in fucking, countryside of Brazil, and you like metal. And then what the fuck do you do? Well, you fucking suffer until you're able to put something together and release an album. Of course, this was not Atomica's first, and I understand they were already, doing the rounds and stuff. And the members of the band, they claimed that the first Atomica record was very popular, and then they made some bad decisions that could have made them much, much, much popular, even like abroad. What's interesting is that this became a cult classic. This album now is revered not only in Brazil but outside of Brazil as a classic thrash metal album from Brazil. And it's interesting that this happened with so many different bands across, in metal in general, where they release something, it doesn't get a lot of traction and stuff, and then many, many years later, everybody looks back and say, "Dude, this is fucking awesome! It fucking rips." And this is definitely the case with Atomica. I don't they did try creating albums after this huge hiatus they had, when they've been silenced. They tried creating more albums, and I don't like those new ones as much. I think I saw them live once, and it was fun. But yeah, I just wanted to bring an album that would showcase a little bit of what else was going on in thrash for Brazil when Sepultura was just like kind of, getting everything, and just being the most ultimate, like, super popular band from Brazil outside to the world.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because I remember thinking as I was listening to this album, I should really clip that Slayer kid, and have him play during this discussion. Slayer. Yeah, I won't do the whole thing, but yeah, no, I mean they clearly have heard Slayer at least a couple of times. That's the most immediate comparison I have for this.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just once or twice maybe they've heard Rain and Blood. But yeah, I mean, I was interested in hearing your context. I wanted to also bring to this discussion. Apparently, this is a pretty big return to form for the band. As I was reading about this album, the last album, Limits of Insanity, apparently was, at least from what I could see, was not received super well. So
it's not a good album.
No, I listened to it.
The first one
is
really good. I think the first one is really good. Next one is not that great. The Disturbing Noise, I think it's their best album.
Yeah, so people were like, "Hell yeah!" when this came out. Apparently, this was like the first time they had like a real singer. Like, I guess they had like singers that just sang on an album and then left for the first like couple of albums, and then this one they were like, "All right, this is our guy," And yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a great album. I would say on the vocal piece, I could see people saying I don't love the vocals on this. I could see it in the same way that I hear people say I don't like Tom Araya's vocals, even though they're wrong about that. But I also, to that point, I don't see another vocal type working with this type of music because it's so fast and so, it's so frenetic and the pace is so fast, at least on the first side, like you're saying, Mauricio, that like I don't think another type of vocal could work super well here. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I really love the tone they were able to capture here, especially like the guitar tone. I think it really works with this really fast type of thrash they're going for. And yeah, listen to this a lot. I would certainly consider this kind of like a hidden gem of death thrash. I think it's really awesome. I've not heard anything after this, so I guess I have to do some research. But hearing that you don't like it makes me, leery of that. So yeah. What do you
Sorry.
think, Wibbs? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have said more than I can, and most of what I was going to say already. But I am a Rain in Blood worshipper, and this sounds a lot like Rain in Blood. And
It sure does.
and I sat down and listened to it, and I was like, do you know what? Because normally when I listen to Rain in Blood, because it's so short, I just listen to it again. But I could like absolutely see myself putting this into the rotation and just putting it and like I don't want to be just entirely dismissive of just like all Slayer clone. That they wouldn't be the only one if they were, but like there's what they're trying to do here is phenomenally executed. And I'm also just conscious last time a band is a clone of. They emailed me and said, "No, we're not. We're clones. We're influenced by other bands." So whatever. But like, no, I mean, like,
Yes.
absolutely non-stop enjoyment from this record. I thought it was fucking great. I would listen to this at any time of day or night, and have an immensely good time. And it's right up my alley. This is the kind of thrash that really gets me going. So fuck yeah.
Yeah, it captures. It's interesting. Like I did some. I tried to think about why this became such a cult classic over the years, and I think it really goes back. I think Raining Blood. You said you're a Raining Blood worshiper, and I was like, who's not a Raining Blood worshiper?
Oh,
At this point,
there are people
so
that
many
are
people.
not. Then like shame on them.
They don't like
really,
Tom Araya. That's what it is.
that
What?
is that is crazy. Like at
You
least like
just
from
want
my
but what
my
about the
metal friends, like
riffs?
yeah, my metal friends, everybody just fucking love it. Especially down in Brazil's layer, extremely popular. Brazil always extremely popular, and but there's a certain like I'll go back into these imperfection things. I think that there is like this certain like authenticity that is conveyed through this sort of like
Hmm.
more raw kind of recording style is something that's kind of hard to capture today, and you don't see a lot of things like that anymore. And I believe that that's perhaps why this became such a cult classic over the years, um, because it's really a band that like they made a lot of bad decisions over the years in terms of labels and whatnot, which is why they never got popular. Um, but yeah, I think they're ready to come together and do something amazing with this one. It's quite a shame that it wasn't recognized for what it is back in the day, but
Yeah, and I
hopefully they
think
are getting something out of it from people liking it today.
with like the like them making mistakes comment too. I think in thrash, I feel like, at least for me, that's something I'm way more forgiving in that genre. If I hear like an audible like, mistake or whatever, I'm like, but if that's part of the sound, like if it's meant to be kind of like a loose kind of recording, like, it clearly is recorded live kind of thing. Like I'm thinking of like an Aura Noir where you can hear them fuck up and they're just like, yeah, whatever. like, yeah, it's part of the sound. And it feels like at times Attomica is kind of going with that, just like, yeah, whatever. We're doing it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you it's completely different than I think it's embedded into these sort of genre like thrash crossover that,
Mm.
there's a grindcore, like who the hell cares? We're here for the noise and for the fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very different from the like precision of like a Nephast, for example.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, like if you heard that same kind of I don't know, I'm playing the wrong chord or whatever, I don't know what that means, but if you heard that on a fast album, you'd be like, oh, that's really noticeable. On this
Yeah.
thing, you're like, eh.
Yeah.
That
Cool.
must be
Yeah.
part of what they were going for. Cool.
It actually approaches you to the thing more, I guess, when there's like mistakes and errors. Like it makes it more, I don't know. Real is not the right word, but I feel closer to what they're doing. I don't know how
Yeah,
to
I mean,
explain.
going back to a very non-metal band, the Beatles with that one song, can't remember what it is, where you can hear Paul McCartney clearly say "fuck" in the background because he played the wrong thing, you know. Yeah, I mean that's cool. Like I love that shit. So if you're not like into that when you're listening to thrash, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're listening to.
All right.
Yeah.
We're getting close. We're getting close. We have two more.
All right. Are we gonna do the really weird one that I got?
Really weird
Yes, I
one.
have
Okay.
things to talk about that one.
Webs number one.
All
3,
right.
2, 1, go. All right. Okay, so that was Darkat Yuuyamihn, and the song translates to "The most illustrious geniuses have done nothing so far." And I'll let Mauricio. Can you give us the song name in its original
Os
Portuguese?
mais ilustres gênios nada fizeram até agora.
Man.
Thank you, sir. And can you give me the album title as well?
Eu sou a vítima e o carrasco.
Yeah, it means I am a victim and an executioner. So this came out in 2024. It's a one-person project by a person called Yuuyamihn. It is a gender fluid trans project. I don't know the appropriate pronouns to use here, and I apologize in advance, but definitely fully unapologetically RAA RABM
Yes.
project here. And I think that's interesting just in itself. Like, Brazil is not really known for, kind of RABM, despite having a very deep history of
Well, for
leftist
the
politics.
uninitiated, why don't we tell them what RABM is?
So that's red anarchist black metal. So we're talking about like explicitly anti-fascist music, which is, I think, poignant and relevant in our times, at all times, but especially now. So this individual, Yuuyamihn, this is their 8th album.
Ooh.
8th. But went on an 8-year hiatus, and you just suppose an artist's block, they say, but came back with this one and decided to kind of like go away from like the traditional DSBM, like, life is so miserable, and start talking about real things, which in this instance is really about like gender dysphoria and associated kind of social issues, all drawn through a leftist lens, and is inspired by the 1969 Japanese queer art house movie Funeral Parade of Roses by Matsumoto Toshio, from which it takes its name, of the album, and also the final track. And so very much dealing with trans issues, with queer issues, with gender issues, but also I think one of the reasons why I think it's particularly interesting for us as a podcast, it also deals with the experience of the Japanese Brazilian diaspora, which Mauricio referenced earlier, both in its reference to the movie that I just spoke about. Also, if you go onto Yuuyamihn's Instagram account, it says this is a Heaven in Her Arms fan account, and I'm just going to say Heaven in Her Arms is one of the fucking best Japanese bands like out there for damn sure. Like, it will fucking go and check out Heaven in Her Arms. This band is and indeed the clip that we just listened to is very heavily influenced by Heaven in Her Arms. If you go on the Bandcamp page for this album, you'll see Yuuyamihn recommends Heaven in Her Arms, White Halo, which is one of my favorite albums, and Dead Sinking Story by Envy, which is another of my favorite albums. Envy is a famous Japanese post-hardcore band, so what we see here is really a kind of like combination of black metal, DSBM kind of black metal with those really, really tortured kind of like froggy like vocals, and then kind of post-hardcore / kind of screamo kind of influences that you get from your Envies and your Heaven in Her Arms. And then those, but I think that the black metal vocals are in Portuguese. I'm not sure. Is that right, Mauricio? No, or are they Japanese? But the high pitched kind of like female vocals that you hear there are Japanese. Is my
So I couldn't. I've tried to.
It's hard to understand exactly like.
But all the lyrics are in Japanese.
But they are, and there's lots of Japanese. All the lyrics are in Japanese, and there's a lot of Japanese. Well, there's a couple of kind of spoken words in it, like samples, if you will. So one of which is from Funeral Parade of Roses. Another one is from a
little bit more about that. Yeah,
Technolize or something. anyway, like I just think this is really, really, really cool, like kind of experimental alternative black metal project, but like coming from a really, really fucking cool place of like the right place, right? And I'm just I don't know. Have you got either of you guys ever heard of this? Because I feel like both of you would like really kind of find ways to connect with this. But you're both shaking your heads like, all right, go tell me what you think.
Yeah,
So
I've never. No, go ahead.
go. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I've never heard of this prior to listening to it with your suggestion. I did not expect depressive suicidal black metal to be part of this episode, but when I saw it was a Wibs pick, I was like, that makes sense actually. No, I mean it's a great, like, really weird project. I mean, there's just picking out different kind of subgenres I heard as I was listening. Like, there's some post-hardcore, there's some shoegaze, but then there's also some like fucking spectral lore, I should say, type riffs, that they'll just pull out of nowhere. Just kind of like, really crazy on top of the vocals, those kind of shrieks that the vocalist will do, and then really soft parts. Yeah, just really engaging, I feel like, is the word I kept coming back to as I was listening to it. It's like it kind of demands your attention as an album. It's not something you can really listen to just like in the background, like some of the albums we've talked about before, like those grindcore ones and all of that, where you can just have fun with it. No, this one is like you got to pay attention to what's going on. But yeah, it also struck me as something that Damien from Churha and Sadness would probably like collab with. I don't know if that makes sense to either of you, but it feels like
Fuck
it feels
yeah.
like a very
Well,
very
absolutely.
yeah, it feels like a very very much like in that same sort of vein that they're going in. But yeah, this rocks. I need to dig into, I guess, the 7 other albums this person has put out. But I really like this. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one drew me into a rabbit hole, I would say, because um, I this is definitely not the kind of music that I listen to the most. Talked about this in the pod before, but as you said, Wibs, like I did find stuff that made me connect with this music, um, and I think a lot of it has to deal with this mix of like Portuguese and Japanese, and all of the insertions with the spoken words and the themes behind the music and the concept of the album. So yeah, you already talked about how this is created on top of Funeral Parade of Roses, which is a uh, this experimental film that was released in 1969. And I shared a video with you guys doing a comparison between this and Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, because Kubrick's actually got inspired when he watched Funeral Parade of Roses, and that's a lot of the scenes in Clockwork Orange. They're actually exactly the same as the ones that you can see in Funeral Parade of Roses, which came out before, obviously. And the thing that's interesting is that the title of this album. So yeah, so I connected with the music, but what really got me was all of the cultural references and the other things that are in here, because there's a lot of depth that you can find if you keep searching. And I had to stop at some point because I'm like, dude, I'm researching things about this one album for 2 hours now. What the hell? But basically, the thing that's interesting is there's like so many. I started making all these weird connections in my head, because the name of the album, like, it's called Eu Sou a Vítima e o Carrasco, means exactly what you said. Like, I'm a victim and an executioner, which is the opening line for the Flowers of Evil. Funeral Parade of Roses. But it is also a reference to Baudelaire's Les Fleurs du Mal, which is the Flowers of Evil, which is this legendary collection of poems that came out back in the day in France. And actually, though that particular collection of poems, I know a lot about that stuff because of my background with like Gothic music. There's a lot of goth bands and stuff that they reference Baudelaire, and but in metal, if you think about it, Therion, because do you guys know that band, the Therion? I'm not sure how the English.
Yeah,
You
like
know
a
what I'm
power
talking
metal
about?
band. Yeah.
It's not power metal. They do more like the orchestra kind of thing. They have like some good. I used to like them a lot back in the day, like Bovin and some of those albums. They
My
actually have an
brutish
album.
sensibilities probably just put it into power metal, you know. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Clean vocals,
whatever.
power.
They used to bring like so many people on stage just to make one concert, but it's one of those bands. It's like that other one, Haggard. Do you guys know that one as well? Like a Waking of the Centuries, but whatever. But yeah, Therion, they have an album called Les Fleurs du Mal, which is exactly the name of the Baudelaire's poems. And like Over actually has an album called Flowers of Evil. So there's references for these collection of poems like everywhere. And one of my favorite bands of all time, Dead Can Dance, they have an album called Spleen and Ideal. Spleen and Ideal is also a reference directly reference to Flowers of Evil. So when I found this connection with Flowers of Evil, I thought it was pretty interesting. And if you dig deeper, and I did, sorry listeners, if you dig deeper, and I started looking into like what is like Flowers of Evil about? It deals with themes related to decadence, eroticism, focusing on suffering and its relationship to original sin, which is when you think about this like the movie, The Funeral Parade of Roses, and it centers on this like it's called gay boy. It's like a term that's used in Japanese. It might sound a little bit weird, like in English, but in Japanese, like sounds like kind of normal. But it's this gay boy Eddie, and it's a younger transgender woman that works as this gay bar in Tokyo. And I want to watch. I watched a little bit of the movie. I want to watch the rest of it. But there's a lot of connections in there. On the Japanese thing, it's interesting that there is a lot of cultural exchange between the two countries, as I said before. And when I saw that all the lyrics were in Japanese, and I started listening to these dialogues playing in some of the songs, I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I started looking, and there's like a certain there's a part in this album where it's taken directly from the movie. So there's a dialogue in this album which is taken directly from the Japanese movie, The Funeral Parade of Roses. But there's another part which is from this Japanese anime called like Technolize, and I know of that anime. And then I said, wait, I know this. Why is this here? Because Japan, if you like Japanese animation, they sometimes are kind of crazy when they're creating certain things. And they have this whole genre of anime that are kind of cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic, but it's always like reflections on life, on existence. And sometimes you watch that thing, you have no idea what the fuck is going on, but you still love it. Like one of my favorite of all time is one called Serial Experiments Lane, and that's why I know about Technolize. And then I saw there's references for anime in other of some of his previous songs as well. There's another anime called Ergo Proxy, which is in the same vein, kind of weird, whatever, post-apocalypse, and there's like spoken words and stuff like that in some of his previous works. And the high-pitched vocals, they are so similar to J-rock, which is Japanese rock. They're so it's taken straight out of there. And I think that part like really kind of what's made me connect more with the album. When I started listening, this is definitely not something that I gravitate towards normally, but this whole like cultural exchange, all these crazy references, like really made me connect with the music. So pretty interesting. Like it's kind of crazy, like a mix of like all this cultural thing, but it works and it's pretty great. And the Japanese on the lyrics, I tried understanding some of them, and my poor intermediate Japanese is not good enough to understand what the hell is going on, because it's a lot of advanced like kanji, which are the ideograms, and I was like, I don't know some of these. And a lot of times the Japanese, when they are writing lyrics that are more poetic, it's just so hard to understand what the hell is going on. Like sometimes not even them are able to understand. So kind of crazy. I would like to ask this person like, hey, because I also don't know the pronouns, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but I would like to know like where did all this come from? Like what is your background, like who are you? I'm so interested now. And even the name Darkat Yuuyamihn, so Yuuyamihn means dusk in Japanese, right? And then the thing that's interesting though is that I'm not sure if so that's sort of a stretch, but growing up, I remember this PlayStation 1 game, this adventure game called
Yeah,
Yuuyamidori. And I was like, is that where the name here is coming from? Because if it is, that is fucking amazing. Because who the hell knows this is stupid, weird
That's-
game? Like, I knew this, but like, who else? There's people that know this? The hell? So, very interesting.
that's all I got when I started like googling Yuuyamihn was this PlayStation
Yes.
1 game that's like supposedly like the best PS1 game that nobody's
Dude,
ever
and the other
heard
thing-
of, that like never came out anywhere
Yes,
else.
and since this is a fucking Brazil episode, just one more thing, like PS1 in Brazil, PlayStation 1, I'm a huge gamer, so PlayStation 1 in Brazil, when it came out, we couldn't fucking afford original games. Everything was pirated. So like, and back then, we would copy CDs, right? So the way you buy PS1 games, I'm not joking, you can ask any Brazilian that lived through that era. You would go to like a fucking like store in the middle of the street, like a guy with like a table just selling CDs, and you would just get $10 and you would go back with 10 games. They had no covers. They had nothing. It was just like a CD, and the name of the game was written like with like a marker. Sometimes it was wrong, and that's how I came across that game, because I would go with like $20, buy 20 games, and sometimes some of them were trash, and then you would just play everything. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. I didn't know Japanese back then. So when as soon as I said, no way, there's a connection here. So hopefully that is. I don't know if that's where the name of the artist here is coming from, but hopefully that's the connection, because that would be awesome. But pretty fucking interesting stuff, man. I spent a lot of time just doing all the research to see really.
I can tell. God
yeah,
damn.
man.
Sorry, got really excited with this one. So amazing stuff.
Now for something entirely different.
But we're bringing it home with such
We're
a
gonna bring
big
it
one,
home.
dude.
Yes.
This is
We
such
all
a
know
big
the one we're
album.
picking.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Dude, I don't have enough headbanger creds to talk about this album.
But yeah, in keeping with the Wibbs ethos of not having solos in the clips, I did cut it off as soon as I could. But I felt like you needed a little bit, you know. But anyway, yeah.
Well, you could tell it was going in. Going in
Yeah.
that direction.
But yeah, so that was the song "Spirits of Evil" from the album
Spirites
Bloody.
of Evil. It's I can notice the accent there. It's not spirits of evil. Spirites of Evil.
Vivo! But from the album Bloody Vengeance by the band Vulcano from 1986, which was a huge year, apparently, as I was looking around. That was the same year Beneath the Remains came out, as well as some other notable kind of like Brazilian thrash albums from I'm gonna miss all of them off the top of my head. I think Sarcophago had an album come out at that time. It did take everything within my power not to pick a Sarcophago album. But I figured people probably know who Sarcophago is more than Vulcano. But anyway, yeah, Vulcano, they're legends. This album rules. It's super raw, as you could hear from that clip. They did not have a ton of I don't want to make fun of them or anything, but like they didn't have a ton of money at their disposal when they were, you know, recording this. They didn't have a ton of resources, but it still sounds fucking awesome. It's super raw and polished, abrasive, you know. But it's so much fun. It's to our earlier discussion about like thrash being characterized a little bit by like mistakes and all that. Like this is kind of case in point, isn't it? Like this album is super in your face, just in relentless, just 23 minutes of abrasive thrash. It's awesome. Yeah. I remember this was the first album outside of Sepultura because, you know, Sepultura is awesome. And, everybody who listens to Sepultura when you're a young kid is like, damn, this is great. But then after that, this is like the first Brazilian thrash album I really connected with. Them and Sarcophago. So this one's a special one for me. And I think it's the perfect length because 23 minutes is the perfect length for this type of really abrasive, really in your face thrash. Because outside of that, I feel like if it's a little bit longer, it could be like, okay, guys, I get it. You know, I get what you do. It's thrash, but like 23 minutes in and out. And that's what I think it needed. This album's great. What do you guys think? It better be good. If not, I will haunt you.
Well, what I thought listening to this was, in the year of our Lord 2025 and 2024 and 2023, there was probably an album on Derek's list that sounded just like this.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's a sound that, 50 years hasn't really. Oh, is it 50? No, it's 40. It's 40 years hasn't diluted its appeal one iota. That like just. Well, first of all, obviously, and we talked about this in our end of year episode last time, but like the big clunky clanky bass that you love so much, which we all love so much. Just like you said, that kind of very organic and natural recording, and like the vocals sounding like they were recording in a public bathroom. And it's just fucking great. Yeah, like it's a very, very Derek pick. That's thought fair. Like it was just like, oh wait, like so yeah, 1986. Yeah, they were still back then. They were doing the same thing, and it's pushing your buttons now just as it was then, and it's beautiful.
I consider. As I said, I was joking when I said, I was just joking just a little bit when I said that I don't have enough headbanger creds to talk about this. This album is legendary. So because I don't think I can do justice, I'm actually going to use, do you guys remember the fanzine that I talked about, United Forces? I actually found on issue number 2, there is a review of Bloody Vengeance by Vulcano, and I'm going to read that for you guys right now. Let's go. So, Bleeding Skulls is the approximate comparison we can make to this new Vulcano record. The album is a little short, but Vulcano knows what is good enough, and filling it with crap is not worth it. They recorded only the material they thought was great. All the songs are fast, except Bloody Vengeance. I didn't say bad, it's just not fast. Bloody Vengeance brings the best of vocalist Angel and the entire band. The disc also has an introduction called Voices from Hell that sounds like a kind of ritual. The black metal is forged by Vulcano. So that's the... What's interesting about this review is that it talks about Vulcano being black metal. Back in the day, they had no idea like about the genres were more fluid for lack of a better word. There was like not a lot of like this definitions, all this stuff that we have today. There was none of it. So it's black metal because there's a fucking like priest dying in a church that's catching fire in the cover. Therefore, it's evil. Plus, a lot of the songs they talk about hell and whatnot. I have more. I have another thing that's curious that's in this fanzine that I want to read for you guys, and because that's the author of the fanzine talking about that time, and then it goes like this. He says. There's a lot of rumors circulating about Vulcano following a story that ran in the Veja magazine. Fuck this magazine, by the way. Just want to say as a Brazilian, fuck this magazine. Fucking sensationalist crap. The article claimed that their then drummer, Algir Piloni, was regularly robbing graves in the cemetery, digging up human bones to use as drumsticks. According to
like that guy in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Jeez.
According to a newspaper article reproduced in the band's publicity newsletter, Lodger ended up being indicted because of that story. The newspaper headline read something like "Metaller uses human bones to play his macabre, I don't know, rock music."
Yeah.
The dude, I have something to say about this one. Sorry if it gets too long. You guys can tell me to fuck the hell up. It's you guys mentioned like Vulcano and Sarcófago, and there were definitely other bands like this back in the day in Brazil that they had this heavy satanic imagery against the church. If you know Brazilian history, Brazilian was just getting out of the military dictatorship in 1985. So prior to 1985, and the military dictatorship in Brazil had deep ties with the Catholic Church. Prior to 85, to release any songs, you had to submit the song lyrics and whatever you were about to release to the government, and the government would give a thumbs up or thumbs down. Actually, this happened with Ratos de Porão, like my beloved crossover band. That happens with them in the early days when they were more like punk, the last crossover. They actually got some of their lyrics rejected. A few years ago, João, which is still the guitarist, the guitar player from Ratos de Porão, he shared some of the documents that he still has from back in the day when some of his lyrics were rejected. So imagine you have a bunch of like kids starting to listen to Venom and things like that, and you get all of this military dictatorship where you can say anything, and then suddenly you can say whatever the fuck you want. So of course you're gonna say fuck you to all those motherfucking people that created all that oppression and those problems back in the day, right? So it's not by chance all this satanic shit and bullshit and all this rage coming out of the lungs of the Brazilian guys back in the day. And the other thing is that for this podcast, I've listened to an it was like a semi podcast that Zema, which is still one of the guys that's still with the band. He was there in the beginning. He's the bassist. He actually talked about a little bit of what was happening when this album came out. This album was recorded in 24 hours. That was it. They were already playing these songs, but they recorded this album in 24, and that was it. And he was saying that even then, to create some of to make the aura more dark of where they were recording, he was saying they lit up candles for when Angel was recording their vocals. So they turned off all the lights, they put up a bunch of candles, and that's how he recorded the vocals. It's kind of crazy. And also like some of the things, the little things that you hear in this, like the ritual thing that they were talking about, which is that song Voices from Hell. They were saying that there's a door to the studio that they were closing, and they liked the sound of it. They played around with some like reverb or some shit like that, and they just added that to the album. That was not the intention in the beginning because they felt that the album was too short. It's only 23 minutes.
It's 23 minutes.
Well, they had 24 hours, dude. It's a minute per hour. Yeah. And the other thing that I really like, and it goes back to what we were talking about related to this whole singing in Portuguese, singing in English. I can notice as a Brazilian that speaks English that when he say spirits of evil, he's not saying spirits of evil. He's saying spirits of evil, spirits of evil. Because if I was reading this this word with the Brazilian Portuguese accent. I wouldn't say spirit. I would say spirit, and that's what he's thinking. Because, dude, you're a fucking Brazilian headbanger that wants to sing in English, so you don't fucking know English. You just say whatever the fuck you want, and then go back to what we were saying. It's not exactly to sound commercial. I think do you really think that this thing is commercial? Like,
No.
it's more because it just felt back in the day, everything was in English when it comes to metal. Even you think about Creator playing Pleasure, it's English. The guys are from fucking Germany. Why are they singing in English? Right? So,
Yeah.
but then you see a lot of in these lyrics, even with Sepultura, if you go back to Morbid Visions and Schizophrenia, like you look at the lyrics, there's some stuff in there is like, what the hell are they? But it's just because it felt right. And it's exactly the same here in Blood
Yeah.
Vengeance from Vulcano. And it gives this such a charm to the album when I hear this sort of thing. Because I think about back in the day, how hard it should be, like not, trying your best to just put something out, coming out of that fucking military dictatorship, dealing with all this thing.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just like so fucking great. And the last thing that I'll say, sorry, I know it's a lot. Zema also said that the album cover, the funny thing is that they had a picture that was taken as base to create this album cover. So the album cover is basically it's a church, right? It's all
Great
catching
album
fire, and
cover.
there's a priest lying down, and they actually changed the cover when the album was released in Europe because they thought it was too offensive, but in Brazil, what they did is that he asked a friend of his to do the album cover, and that friend of his brought his brother to an actual church in Brazil, and they took a picture of his brother just laying on the floor to serve as base for the artist to draw the cover.
Oh, that's cool.
They were hardcore back in the
Hell
day,
yeah.
dudes. We're
Nice.
nothing today. They were the real deal. So
Yeah.
I don't even have to talk about the fucking music. It's fucking amazing. What there's just say? Just hit fucking play. So deep respect, man. I mean, I had to do some research to do my best here. Otherwise, like I feel like they could steal my passport or something if I didn't provide enough information about this. But fucking
No, I
Vulcano, man.
really appreciate the context, especially because one of the notes I didn't mention from this band is that I was reading about this album, and apparently before this album, which makes sense given you're saying the 1985 is kind of the turning point for a lot of bands. Apparently before this album, they had developed kind of a pretty large following from playing kind of a new wave of British heavy metal kind of sound. And then this album marked a very stark change to like, nope, we play fucking crazy death thrash.
Dude, you will hear if you
Uh,
start listening to interviews with people from Brazil from back in the day, you hear them talking about the new wave of British heavy metal all the time, because basically they were all pissed off like with that sound. They're like,
yeah.
fuck this shit, we don't care about this shit, or fuck that, we're gonna talk about
That's
hell
so
and
cool that like as
Satan.
soon as I would imagine that sound was like more accepted at the time. And then come 1985, they're like, fuck this. We're gonna play what we want to play. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
I love
we
that.
want to invoke
That
Satan
feels
here. Yeah,
then that feels very in line with like thrash in general, like the whole ethos of like, no, we're gonna do what we want. We're gonna, this is like punk, kind of punk based, as thrash came from punk. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. I really appreciate you letting us know that. That makes it even cooler, even though Vulcano already is super cool.
and they're still going.
Yeah, they are. They're still
They are
active.
still going. It's still going. Actually, Zema was saying that the interesting thing, the other perspective he gave on this interview, which is quite recent, was that when a band has an album that's so legendary like that, they also have a problem because every single thing that they do will be compared to that album, and
Oh
that
yeah,
still
no doubt.
happens into today. So that's the other side. But
Yeah. So what did we learn today?
that I'm very passionate about Brazilian metal. I
Did
think.
we learn that? Did we
Hopefully I
know
could convey,
that?
I don't know, hopefully I could convey this to this episode. And then thank you very much for doing this one with me. So excited. I spent so much time like doing research and looking into the bands and whatnot. I should do this for every, I try doing my best for every episode, but for this one, I had to go a little bit extra. I don't know.
It was fucking awesome. I had so much fun.
Yeah, this was a good one. This was cool. This was I think it showed just the breadth of, for me, the breadth of Brazilian, metal, the metal scene down there, because I feel like very often we get stuck in the like, death thrash of it all, because Sepultura is huge, Vulcano, like we said, Sarcophago, that sound just became kind of ubiquitous in the same way that like Chile is starting to become synonymous with like thrash and like death thrash now.
And
But like,
it's
yeah,
it's
there's
a great. Oh, and before we close, I almost forgot. And it's great. There is a YouTube channel called Senna. So SCENA. And over the years, they've actually have done a very. It's everything is in Portuguese. I think you can get like the translated captions these days with YouTube. They have done a very, very good job over the years of just disseminating more about the underground parts of like, the different regions in Brazil. So if you look into also like a lot of the bands from back in the day, they come from this like São Paulo region and even from the south of Brazil. But then the north and like east part of the country now is getting much, much more traction. There's so many bands, awesome things coming out from that part of the country as well. And I've got to know them more because of this one YouTube channel, so thoroughly recommend.
hell yeah. Yeah,
Sick.
but Brazil's got a lot to offer. What a cool thing. I'm glad we did this. This was awesome.
Cool.
Fuck
All
yeah.
right. Thanks everyone.
All right, we'll see you
And
soon.
we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
We have a really cool outro coming as well. Enjoy.
Oh yeah, the outro. Yeah. There's you do want to shout out what the outro well I think
I think we'll
listener
all
will
know.
They will know.
Walking these dirty streets,